I will start now. I am Lia Shortino. I am the founder and director of SEA Junction, and SEA Junction is this place where you are in today. And I think most of you are already familiar with us. We are a foundation focusing on Southeast Asia, all kind of issues related to Southeast Asia, the richness of the region as well as the challenges, so to say. Now today we are talking about a very serious challenge. We call it ecocide, killing of the environment. So it's not only one happening, it's not only the fires, it's not only the pollution, it's not only the dam, but it's everything together. And what are the impact for this generation and the next generation? So that is the theme of today, very important theme. And we are very lucky to have Sayan, a great photographer, a Thai photographer who has done this work for many years. As you can see, one photograph is 12 years ago. So long has been his concern for the environment. Later on he will be speaking, but I will give first I will thank our partner, Bangkok Tribune, Pia Porn, yes. Foundation for River and Rights, who has facilitated this panel and will be the speaker also. So thank you. Please stand up. Applause again. So this is another good partner. And of course, Decode. They are all there. There are many of them. And they will document excellently this event. So thank you to Decode for doing this. So thank you to all our partners. And now we are also very proud to have our competitor, FCCT, moderating. So the president of FCCT is moderating our event, as well as a very famous journalist from Reuters. So please, Panu.
Thank you, Leah. Of course, we're not competitor at all. We're working on all this together. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this panel discussion prior to the opening of the exhibition, Living in Fear Amid Ecocide. My name is Panu, Wongcha-um. Of course, I'm a senior correspondent for Reuters who cover mainland Southeast Asia, and also the president of the Foreign Correspondent Club of Thailand. I think living in mainland Southeast Asia over the past decade, ecocide is no longer a distant threat. It's already happening. Sudden changes in the water flow, pollution in the rivers and the air, hydropower dam, toxic mining, and seasonal burning are destroying the environment and people's lives. We can see this every year. We can see things getting worse every year. And all those people living in the region, the fear is immediate and personal. And I think it's very, very important that we come together today to really see Kun Sayan's amazing work, hopefully, after the talks. But I want to, before we go to that, I want to basically, where should we start? I think we should start with Pipai, perhaps, if you want to speak a little bit about ecocide. Shall we go by the Kun Kao? I would like to also, I'm sorry about this, I would like to also invite Kun Kao Middleton from Chulalongkorn University. So Kao, do you want to speak first? And then we can go to Pian Ditet and Kun Sayan. And we have another speaker, right? Patharapong Lilapat. Oh, I see. I'm terribly sorry I came late and I'm not that prepared. But okay, I think I'll go to Ajahn first, if you don't mind, sir. You all have about 10 to 15 minutes to speak about things, and I'll try to weave in as best as I can. So please.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for the warm welcome, and thank you at Southeast Asia Junction and to Bangkok Tribune for inviting me to join today. And also thank you, Kun Sayan, for allowing me to think about the photographs, which are really provocative. So I was asked to share a little bit about a kind of overarching idea of ecocide and environmental justice. So I'm teaching in the Faculty of Political Science at Chulalongkorn University, and especially in the field of environmental politics. Reading the book first, I mean, obviously the fear of ecocide, or the fear emerging from ecocide, is very clear, but you also comment in the beginning about seeking hope as well. So I thought I would try and think a little bit along those lines whilst acknowledging the grave seriousness of the ecocide that's being faced in the region at the same time. So, okay, so actually, I'm more familiar with environmental justice as an idea than ecocide. So I had to do a little bit of research myself to see where this idea is coming from. But it definitely seems to fit what is happening in the region. So there's the independent panel for the legal definition of ecocide defines it as the unlawful or wanton acts committed with knowledge that there is a substantial likelihood of severe and either widespread or long-term damage to the environment being caused by those acts. So it's emerged in the context of the International Court of Justice, but at the time it was not incorporated into the Statute of Rome, but it was heavily debated at the time. And there's still an active discussion now and a strong social movement arguing that this should be recognized in international and national law. I've included Antonio Guerres here. He has been one of the advocates of thinking about ecocide, and this popped up into my newsfeed earlier this year that the UN has been organizing this UN high-level expert group on beyond GDP. And I think that's kind of where I want to situate the discussion today, at least from my part. The kind of ecocide is very connected to the dynamics of capitalism in the region as they're practiced. And so the direction of the discussion that I think this is going in should be thinking about the values that are embedded within capitalism at present. So environmental justice, probably many have heard of this idea already. Actually, it's a social movement, and it's also a field of academic study at the same time. You might be surprised that I've included a US Environmental Protection Agency definition as giving the idea of what environmental justice is, but it actually also symbolizes or reflects a success of a social movement to actually institutionalize the need for environmental justice. So in the US EPA's definition, it says the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. It will be achieved when everybody enjoys the same degree of protection from environmental and health hazards and equal access to decision making. So actually, this is emerging from a US context, and we need to think, what does it mean for a Southeast Asia context? But some of the early insights, I think, are still relevant to what we can observe now. Because when I read the book and thought about the photographs, one of the emphasis is who experiences most severely the environmental harms that are occurring. And it's often those that have weak political voice or are marginalized socially or politically. So in that sense, this well-known book, Dumping in Dixie, points out some of the explanations as to why environmental injustices also emerged in the context of the US. So it included that environmental harms tended to follow the path of least political resistance. And that discrimination, and this is very important, I think, discrimination can be institutionalized in governmental, legal, economic, political, or even military institutions. And so in that sense, some of my own work is thinking about how the laws and policies, environmental impact assessments, and so on, render some people's interests invisible, whilst others' interests are being privileged, often the economic interests. So in that sense, there's much to learn even from other contexts. This is not a US phenomenon, it's a global phenomenon. So often when we think about why environmental injustice happens, we could look at like distributive, procedural, recognition, and restorative justice. Distributive, who is harmed and who is protected. Procedural, whose voices are heard and whose are not. Recognitional, some issues are not even recognized as an injustice. For example, the gender dimensions of environmental harm, if they're not looked for. And then the last one is something that's been discussed a lot more recently, restorative. Practices of care and repair. So not only about the harms that are done, but what can be done to redress them and to fix them and to build back. And I think this is sometimes overlooked, that there's a lot of movements resisting or challenging environmental harm, but those same movements are also enacting cares for the environment at the same time. They're involved in protecting community fisheries. They're involved in trying to defend and keep water clean and so on. It's also important to recognize that environmental justice has a transnational dimension. I think a number of the cases that you're going to discuss reveal it's not just what happens in a local context, but often it's about transnational flows, like transnational investment, waste being exported from one region to another. So the case of waste plastic and other toxic waste that at one time was channeled to China that now comes to Thailand and other countries in Southeast Asia. These are transnational environmental injustices. Or are they? This is also a very important challenge to unpick. That same thing that I've described is often also described as the model of development. Cheap environment, cheap labor is actually the road to economic growth. So for some, that model becomes the development model that is to achieve economic development, whilst for others, as we see from the photographs, it's actually the source of the environmental harms and the undermining of livelihoods. So, one approach to thinking about defending against ecocide has been the rights-based approach, the right to a clean, healthy, and safe environment. So, at the international level within the UN, there's been a UN Special Rapporteur on this topic since 2012, and in 2022, the UN General Assembly acknowledged that there should be the universal right to a clean, healthy, and safe environment as a progressive right. In ASEAN, the ASEAN Declaration did make reference to the right to a clean, healthy, and safe environment, and I'm sure many in the room are aware that more recently there was an ASEAN Declaration on the right to a clean, healthy, and safe environment. So I put this in question mark because on the one hand, the recognition of the right is important in terms of institutionalization, but the ability to claim that right, to fulfill it, is a different question. I think it's also important, and I think this is something I find particularly inspiring about the photographs that are shared today and that we'll discuss, is that it's not just about harm to people. Of course, harm to people is incredibly important, and this is not to downplay the social injustices that occur from acts of pollution, from the dam building, the loss of livelihoods associated with it, and so on. But one of the critiques often towards the environmental justice movement is that it's anthropocentric. It focuses mostly on to the harms that occur to people. But as the photographs show, and we know from many other disasters, wildlife, other living things, and also non-living things, like entire ecosystems and landscapes, are also being harmed by the processes that we're calling ecocide today. So in that sense, it also raises a question of value. What are we valuing? We value human life, but can we also value the other life on the planet as well? And this may not be as difficult as we first think. Obviously, humans may seem closest to us, but when we actually start to think through how our lives are sustained, we are intimately tied to our ecosystems around us, if only we can see and make those connections. So in that sense, there's more discussion or in environmental ethics about thinking about non-human lives, like ecocentric or biocentric value systems. Then there's something which I think is also a really important turn, which is talking about relational values. A lot of Western ethics on the environment talks about objects, like this animal has a value as the animal itself. But another way of thinking about it is the relationships that we hold and why those are valuable. So in indigenous communities, that is not a strange concept. Like the connection between people and nature is a very entwined relationship. It's only in the kind of modern Western world or Western-centric world that this strong divide between people and nature has emerged. So in that sense, thinking about relational values like acts of care, acts of community, acts of kinship, acts of connectedness, and giving values to those is where we might start to think about hope. Sorry. Oh, I hadn't moved on to, I'm going the wrong way, sorry. Okay. There are precedents already, legal precedents. So, for example, the Wanagunui River in New Zealand is often cited as an important case of a river gaining legal rights as if it was a person. I know that the International Rivers or the Rivers Foundation has also been working on a broader range of these types of rights, including here, an event that was held in Ubon Ratchathani a couple of years ago. There are other precedents, like, for example, human light rights being recognized in the context of chimpanzees, also orangutans, that are kind of our closest relatives in a sense. But still, I think these are significant in the sense that it starts to institutionalize and legalize acts of more than human protection. So it's not only anthropocentric. So I've been told to be brief and not to give a lecture, so I'm going to move on quickly. I think I want to talk a little bit what is value and why. This is like trying to move a bit further towards where we might find hope. So I used one of your photographs in the slide. I hope that's okay. I will delete it afterwards. What is this? This is the Mekong River rendered as a diagram. It's a diagram of the Mekong as kind of like a series of dams to be managed and optimized for energy production. It's produced through scientific knowledge that pictures and gives value to the river in that way. So how you know something also reflects the value. It leads to these types of reports. Like, this is a study after the 2019-2020 low flows crisis and the cooperation between the Lanchang Mekong Cooperation and the Mekong River Commission to try and understand why those low flows happened. But it's kind of leading on a trajectory of seeing the Mekong as being a cascade to be managed to be optimized for modern economic growth and development, green sustainable development. Juxtapose it against a lived on-the-ground reality on the river. So whether it's fishing, there's this beautiful book, series of stories by the Mekong butterfly that reveal lots of lived experiences where the river becomes alive, it becomes culturally embedded, it generates its own set of relational values. So I think when we think about values, we actually need to think about the worldviews and the relationships that we have. I'm going to take one quick step back and say, well, actually in the systemic sense, one of the challenges about valuing nature at present is that it's being turned into money. Nature is primarily being commodified. So in that sense, the value that's being attributed is how much yield, how much monetary return can be given or can be taken from seeing nature as a resource. And so in recent years, the scientific world has had a bit of an epiphany, and the idea of the Anthropocene has emerged. The Anthropocene is the idea that people are changing the planet at the planetary scale. So we can't really think about people as separate from nature anymore in that sense, because the very world around us is being changed by humans. The obvious example is climate change, but there are so many more. But I'm kind of more drawn to this other way of thinking, which is the Capitalocene, because it's primarily our economic relationship that is extracting from nature. So the Capitalocene says that it's the relationships within capitalism that are extracting nature that I think are creating a particular value set and that are leading to the ecocide that is being described in the photographs. So it leads to kind of two different ways of thinking. I'm not necessarily opposed to the donor economics concept, which I think is a very interesting progressive way of linking the so-called tipping points of the environment to meeting basic needs and basic rights. But on the other hand, it doesn't have as much of a critical reading of why these things are happening. So this book, The History of Seven Cheaps, argues that the dynamics of capitalism often tends to make things as cheap as possible. Cheap nature, externalize as many of the costs as we see in your photographs. Cheap labor, like the terrible case of the building collapse after the earthquake, with migrants with no rights. Cheap life, in essence. So I think these dynamics are the systemic frame that I would think about when I was looking at the photographs and reading the stories. Leading to a final thought, the possibility of hope. I think it's not easy, but in the end, there are many acts and important social movements in the region and beyond that are trying to challenge and move the way that we have this relationship with nature. But at the core of it is the values. How do we value our relationships that sustain life, that relate each other as well as communities of people and communities of people and nature? So I find this report, the IPBES, it's an intergovernmental report, the Intergovernmental Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, actually quite inspiring, because they point out that there are many different worldviews, from anthropocentric to biocentric to ecocentric. And they pinpoint the heart of, in their case, the biodiversity crisis is that nature becomes rendered primarily in monetary terms. And their solution is that more values have to come into policy making. In the report, they give 50 different techniques, 50 different practices that already exist of how diverse values and viewpoints can be brought into policy making to shift from the human-centric worldview more to a biocentric worldview. It doesn't mean being deep green, it means step by step, moving in a direction that recognizes our relationship with nature and address the ecocide that we're discussing today. So with that, thank you so much. I hope it's a useful intervention.
Thank you, Ajahn Kao. Very interesting approach to look at nature, through different values. I think very rarely in the mind of policymakers in this region, I'm afraid, but something to think about. I think we should go next to Pipai, I guess. Is Kun Pattarapong online? Oh. Okay, why don't we go with Kun Pattarapong's Leelapat's video. He's a Chiang Mai Members of Parliament from the People's Party. So let's see his video.
สวัสดีครับก่อนอื่นนะครับต้องขอโทษทุกคนนะครับเนื่องจากผมติดหมายสารที่เชียงใหม่ในวันนี้นะครับเลยเดินทางไปไม่ทันในงานจริงๆครับเลยขออัดคลิปมาแทนนะครับ I must begin by apologizing for not being able to join the discussion in person today. I had an appointment with the appeal court in Chiang Mai earlier today, so I am sending this video instead. When we speak about living in fear in Thailand today, as we have been facing the pollution crisis for a long time, and it's not only the air that we breathe, but also the food that we eat. Especially in the upper part of Thailand, both northern and northeastern part, we are now facing big problem, a fear of transboundary water pollution. Mainly comes from the mining activities in the neighboring countries. The rivers Kok, Sai, Ruok, Mekong, and Salawin are now contaminated by arsenic, lead, and cadmium. And these rivers have a major role in the agricultural part, fisheries, rice, corn, peas, you name it. Most are irrigated by the water from these contaminated rivers. And the most troubling part is that the people living along these rivers have very little information about this. That silence itself is a form of fear. That is the first fear. Now comes to the second fears. Comes from the air that we breathe. The PM 2.5 problems. As I recorded this video, I haven't yet seen today's cabinet resolution, but I have high hope that the Clean Air Act will be picked up where it was left when the previous parliament dissolved. If it was a good news, I would like to invite everyone to follow the process after this, since the importance of the Clean Air Act is the detail inside, not just the name on the cover. We cannot fix this fear if the important details are all missing. Air pollution is also a problem that must be addressed before it erupts, not after. The Thai government's approach to this year has been reactive, not preventive. One example for you to see the picture clearly is that the budget of forest fire have been cut by the government thousands of million baht every year. Not just this year, every year. Each local government are provided with only 10,000 baht a year to tackle with huge areas of forest. Even worse than that, the salary of the forest firefighter are also limited at 240 baht a day. Now you can see clearly the causes of this second fear, which brings us to the third fear, the fear of the Thai government inaction. This is not just a budgeting problem. This is not just a domestic one. It is a transboundary crisis which requires coordinated structural solutions. It cannot be treated as a simple 1 + 1 equation. Unfortunately, the Thai government may not see it that way yet. Since the meeting between the Thai and Lao environmental minister last week, they only discussed the problem of the air pollution, not yet water pollution. Also, the Thai government have been failed to look deeply into the supply chain of the minerals and other sources that may cause transboundary pollution, both air and water pollution. As a member of parliament, I have followed this pollution crisis since my first day in the office, and I will not stop. And as the soon-to-be chair of the Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Committee, House of Representatives, I look forward to work with everyone in this room to build policies that address these fears at their causes. Thank you so much, and again, I look forward to discuss and welcome to work with everyone that has any idea on the policy of pollution crisis. Thank you.
So that was the MP Patrapong Leelapat. I guess I'll go to Kun Pianporn Ditet, Executive Director of Rivers and Rights Foundation. A lot has been said now from various issues, values, government action, inaction. I mean, you've been working in this area, especially on the river side of things for a long time. So, you know, how do you see this and also the exhibition?
May I have my presentation, please? Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity to reflect the work that after spending over a decade with the artist Sayan, capturing the moment along the Mekong and the Salavin River, as well as Kun Piyaporn from Bangkok Tribune. Yeah, with our own eyes, we witnessed the drastic change of the actual Ecocide already. In the very past, if you look at the photo upstairs, the Stop Sayaburi Dam campaign that the villagers had a protest on the Thai-Lao border just at the ASEM Europe meeting, I think back in 2011 or 2012. Yeah, just I think one day just before the groundbreaking of the Sayaburi Dam construction. At that time, we already experienced the downstream impacts of the dams in China. We know how the unusual fluctuation, how the unseasonal flood or unseasonal drought means in the destruction of the ecosystem services along the Mekong River. And we believe that at that time, if the dam was built, there will be even more drastic ecosystem destruction. And it was true. But later on, just last year, we found that even more problem going to happen. I would like to express my gratitude to the people, villagers, and Buddhist monks in Taton who were brave enough to come out first to express their concern over the change over on the Kok River when mining activities happening upstream in Chan State. Without them, we wouldn't have been working in this part of campaign. Yeah. Before that, we thought that the dam, the hydropower dam, were already devastating. but that's nothing at all compared to the devastation contribute or caused by this kind of unregulated and many of them are illegal mining activities upstream at headwaters of our rivers, the Mekong, the Salween, the Irrawaddy, and many other major rivers in mainland Southeast Asia. When we look at the map, we saw so many mining activity upstream. But when we went to the border, we see it with our own eyes, the 24 hours operation of the mining activities just across the border on the different side of the hilltop. And this kind of activity is happening upstream of our water, our rivers, the Masai and the Kong River. More and more devastation like this happening here and there. And I would say that, and this is the Mekong River just upstream of the Golden Triangle where Thailand, China, Myanmar and Laos meet. And according to Stimson Center, already over 2,500 mines activities happening. And those are the ones that big enough to be detected by satellite. There are many, many thousand more that not detected by the satellite. They are not just on the Mekong, but also Irrawaddy and other tributaries, and also further down Graburi and other rivers that emerge from mainly from Myanmar. Yeah, good enough that we still have the functioning body like the pollution control department that they have the constant water monitoring, and we see clearly that how the trend that the contamination of heavy metals, particularly the arsenic in the Ecocide and the Mekong River has been constant. It's there and it's increasing. And the latest test monitoring of the sediment at the Golden Triangle, we see that at the Golden Triangle, the contamination of arsenic is almost 300 milligram per 1 kilogram, which is 10 times of the hazard level to the aquatic lives. How can this happen to our rivers? To me, it's like my whole life working to defend for rights of rivers. This is so heartbreaking. And when we see on satellite, more and more of them emerging here and there, and they are in that area, in the country, in the territory where there is no such law. There could be some laws, but they are highly corrupt, and it's just unfair, not only to the river, but our life and our next generation. In the topic of redressing or recovery of the ecology or of the future generation, it will be super difficult to collect all this contamination from the river, because the river system is so big and it's flowing all the way to Laos, all the way to Cambodia. It could be back to the Tonle Sap system, and also to the delta in Vietnam, and eventually to the sea, to the South China Sea, also to the Andaman Sea, if we're talking about the Irrawaddy and the Salween River. There will be more of this kind of ecocide or diseased fish. Yeah, and at the Salween it's even worse. When the Chiang Mai University collect the sample, the contamination is even worse than the Mekong River. And we have little access to the area in Salween side, particularly Chan State, in the UWSA area or other areas. People sending me direct message from Mon State, from Karen State, asking that how about them living downstream of the Salween River and also on the delta of the Irrawaddy River. They know that what's happening upstream, but they don't know what the water quality look like over there. And we're trying to coordinate with researchers in Chiang Mai University and other places, trying to collect sample. And we would like to warn people. But it's so sad to see that how rich rice field or delta area like this has suddenly become contaminated by irresponsible minds that It's not even owned by corporation. It's not even funded by financial situation. It's more like gangster or syndicate scam. It's pretty much like scam syndicate that happening here and there around Thailand's border. Yeah, the Mekong River Commission has also exercised their work doing some research, and the result is that the area on Thailand border in Chiang Rai, opposite to the Bangkok province, is contaminated, but not yet in Luang Prabang, maybe because of the Sayaburi Dam as a sink pool for the contamination for the sediment. But who knows, in the future when they have to flush the sediment, in their schedule that they have to flush the flushing system, sediment flushing system, what would happen to downstream area in northern or northeastern Thailand when those sediments are highly contaminated? Do we have technician? Is that the end? Is it? Oh, something might happen. It's fine. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so seeing Kun Sayan's photo exhibition pretty much like not. I think it's very important for us to keep the hope, even though it's this stage of the contamination or the ecocide or the destruction of ecosystem in mainland Southeast Asia is pretty worrying, and it's large area. It covers more than 2 countries. It's already 4 or can be 5 or more countries in the near future, and recovering could be very expensive. Could take many long time. Might take over generations to recover, and it already violate the right of the next generation, the future generation, to the healthy ecosystem and a healthy environment. But we still need to be realistic that at least it's and optimistic that at least it's good that we know that this is happening, and we will work more to influence the policy to be more responsible. And this kind of example of principle for ensuring responsible mining for critical minerals like recycling or identifying no-go zone. Many of these, the principle are there, but how to make it in practice, to implement it and to enforce this principle, or to make them in our laws and regulations. And one thing I would say that we have to admit that these things, the ecological crime, were able to happen similar to the scam syndicate that happening all over, like in different border towns or different border areas of Thailand. It's pretty much the same, because ecosystem in Thailand facilitate this kind of syndicate to be able to happen. The money laundering, the hotels or whatever, and this is possible because of the level of transparency and level of democracy in this region is very limited. But yeah, as the exhibition tells us, that we need to keep hope, and at least we know that this is happening, and it is still possible for us. We have certain level of public space to be able to discuss this topic here, not being arrested. But yeah, so it's sad but true, and need to be optimistic and keep the hope. That would be my reflection to your great exhibition. Thank you very much.
And I guess lastly, P. Sayan Chuenudomsavad, do you want to have say a few words about before we officially open the exhibition?
Yep. Is it my intention that I like to make my photo today? Like I'm so happy that my exhibition can be the starting, that bring everyone come here and talk about the ecocide issue. That's I thank you, Dr. Carr. Thank you, Kun Pianporn. Thank you, Panu, that we come together and everyone come to talk about and listen and learn the thing like ecocide together. Yep. And before we going to the exhibition, I would like to say something about the name of the exhibition. Yep. Like we heard so many times from Kun Pai and Dr. Carl about the transboundary issue. Yep, we heard this one so many times. This one is the is in my exhibition. The issue in my exhibition all connect to the transboundary issue. Yep. And why is that? Because I'm working as a photographer. I cannot write in at my home, but I have to go to the front line for every issue. I being with them, and I can learn about that. The environmental problem issue right now is not happen only in one place, but it's a transboundary issue. It's cross border. So I found out that the people cannot cope with it because it's how the local people can deal with the toxic river like Mae Nam Kok, who they don't know, they don't even know who gonna start, who they gonna talk to. Yes, it's like the crisis, it become like a more and more complicated. So the exhibition try to show the human side of them. Yeah, and there are like, I'm not sure, maybe 5 or 6 issues on the exhibition. PM.5, Wi-Fi. Yep. The place that I go and the people that I connect to, they have something in similar. I can see in their eye, yeah, in their eye that they don't know what to do. They just face the problem, but they don't know what to do. So this one become the name of the exhibition. It's like a generation of fear. That something like the idea is that no matter that what age are you are Gen X, Y, C, Alpha or anything, but we connect by the same feeling. That is fear, anxiety, something like that. Yep. And yep, that is a Gen F. And also I would like you to I identify F as fear, right? But maybe you can identify the other, like the future, the failure, or something else that depends on you. I like you to see the exhibition, and maybe you can talk what is Gen F is in your term. Yep. ครับคุณวันครับ
Thank you, Kapi Sayan. Before we head over to, let's give him a round of applause. Before we head over, we're going to have a Q&A session. So for any of you who have questions, please put up your hands. And I guess we'll pass the microphone to you. And you can ask our panelists questions. Any taker over there? Yes. Okay. There's a mic.
No question, just an observation. I think Kun Sayan talked about transboundary issue. So we are talking about not only Thailand, but Laos, Myanmar, our neighboring countries, right? Right now, we have Mekong River Commission to look after Mekong, although, how effective it is just another question. But along the border of Thailand and Burma, we have other rivers, but we don't have, cooperative efforts to manage these rivers, right? So right now, Burma is like has a civil war, and we have this problem with contamination, and we don't know how to go about it. There are a number of elephants in the room. Okay, I mean, we have official testing water, and the results are known, but we have no way to go about it, right? Similarly, the mining in Burma, that's the cause of the contamination. And they have fighting going on. And we don't know how to do it, how to deal with it, right? Why? I think we are talking about the geopolitical situation here between Thailand and Burma, and a little bit about Laos. But why don't Thailand and Burma talk about these issues, And one thing I can think of is that the produce from the mines in Burma go to where? I think, that's the focus that should be on. But, and why doesn't Thailand take action? Go to the source and talk to the people, talk to the, powers there. I think people here probably know why, and I would not venture to mention it, but that's the elephant in the room.
Thank you. Important comment on accountability and which authorities, right? Another lady there.
Thank you so much for a wonderful story and a lot of things that you're working behind. My name is Wongcha-um. I am a human rights defender working in Thai-Myanmar border, particularly in the area of impact by contamination of mining. Some big issue that maybe the most concern as the people who working there is on indigenous people. They are drinking water directly from Sarin River. It's not just eat fish or living livelihood, planting things, but because of the Thai government fail in terms of infrastructures, it's actually that particular area are the national park with actually restrictions in terms of developments. The most concern about me is there is no solutions when we cannot address the root cause with actually mining activities, and we know that what they want. They want to produce the weapon. They want to, pushing for technologies. That's why rare earth is most needed in every country, especially who have the power, which is China. But then millions of people are drinking water directly from the river that contamination. Can you imagine, not only in Thailand, but also Laos, Cambodia. And the most concern is when we cannot address the root cause, we don't think about this, how we help the people to access to clean waters. That's the first priorities that myself as a human rights defender also trying to advocate. The other issue is how we can speak about it, because imagine of Laos, how they talking about these issues. Thinking about Myanmar, how can they talking about this issue? I think Thailand is the key actors that need to speak out. Then also when we speak out, there will be a lot of risk, especially for the human rights defenders. And we could see, how SLAP is actually used to against a human rights defender and right directly to the people who are stand for defend their environmental is the more targeted, as you know. So all of that is need the attentions from this society, from Thai society. And we couldn't see much, online media, I mean mainstream media, to write this issue. We see alternative media. We repeat, the news that how it's impact now, it's impact of fish, people. But then, the mainstream, like a main channel, channel television program, never, address these issues. And I think how we can working together and to make this at the most, important, and this is crisis, meaning that there will be some solution. For example, we need to deliver the resource to ensure that the community access to clean waters, and then long-term solution as well, and also address the root cause. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any further comments? Oh.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Hallisey. First of all, I just wanted to say to you, Sayan, this is a really remarkable body of work. It is a tremendous documentary project, and it's evident from the power of those images and the sensitivity and the depth of this, the work and the years and the passion that went into it. So really, just again, kudos to you and to SEA Junction for curating this very powerful exhibition. I had two questions. One is for you, Sayan. There was an image upstairs on the wall that was the only one in there that addressed a documentation of public health impact, and it was the photograph of a rash that had been received. I'm wondering if there's any other information that either of you have, anecdotal or data, on more widespread health impacts as a result of these poisonings, and if that's something that could be documented to perhaps bring that aspect in. And I was wondering for you, Ajahn, if you could expand a bit. You said earlier that there's sort of bands of gangsters, sort of syndicated crime that are responsible for some of these mines along the border. Can you expand a little bit upon that? Are these organizations that are associated in any way with the Myanmar military, border guard forces, or other armed entities? Is it likened to like what we see with the scam centers, or is it a different ball of wax altogether? And once again, congratulations.
Oh, shall we take one more comment and then answer?
For me, it's more like comments. My name is Sayan Chuenudomsavad. I'm from Dialogue Earth. We based in London, and we actually covers a lot of transboundary water issue. And like this lady said earlier, we know the source. Everybody knows what's the source. And we know, not as speculations, we know all those illegal mines were operated by Chinese counterpart. Things is, like the gentleman said too, where are those rare earths, where those critical minerals goes to? I think it's beyond just Thai governments, but more like international diplomacy issues that we need to talk to China, because we indirectly knows it go to China. China themselves has their own principles in terms of the green mining. They themselves try to slow down, fade out from their own countries, but they're doing it in Southeast Asia. So maybe for us as a consumer, the first thing we probably need to know is our EVs, how clean is our EV? Maybe it's those batteries are not that clean. So maybe that's one of the issues that for the general consumers, that need to know. And I think the bigger levels is probably on the international diplomacy. We probably need China to have more accountability. Like Kun Pian Pon said, this is more like a scam syndicates. So they's not going to admit that, so it's a bit, I think it's a very tricky issues, but it's good that we are here to put this issue in the publics, and everybody's realized that there is an issue and try to find a solution.
Thank you. I guess answering those questions. And I think I'll allow all of you to have your final thoughts as well. So you can reflect on all the comments and maybe add your comments.
Yeah, sure.
Please, Pai.
Yeah, the photo of skin rash is from one of the person in Taton village that he used to spend lots of time in the Gok River, and some of the doctors suggest that this is pretty common for possibly early stage of skin cancer that were found other places. So the health impact will be slow It's not going to be seen right away, but it might take a few years or more than 10 years to see the impacts. But we don't have to wait until that time, and we know that all these mines are leaking all the poison to our river system, so we should stop them right now. And the band of gangsters, there are other places in the area operated under the control of the Myanmar military, by the militia, by the ethnic armed groups like the UWSA, MNDAA or other groups. And I would say that the fact that you said that China is stopping the mining within their territory but going out to their backyard, which is the closest is Kachin state and now southern part to Shan state. One of the fact is that these investors, they are grabbing the opportunity of no rule of laws in the area. They are just guns and violence, and is some of our colleagues call it is a economic of conflicts area, right? It's possible because of the conflicts there, so they grab this opportunity. If it's in Thailand, no way you can do this kind of in situ leaching or this kind of irresponsible mining like this. And it's of course it's export to China, smuggle to China, export to Thailand. And we see the information from custom officers along the northern border from Mae Sai, Chiang San all the way to Mae Sot indicate that for the past 2 years, the import of minerals from Myanmar and Laos increased at least 2 times. And we yet to see this year. And this is official one. How about the smuggled ones? And there are lots of work to be done on the supply chain and all the end products, EVs or phones or military industry products or whatever. And last thing to reflect is that it's really a global issue. It's not Chiang Mai issue at all. But we start from here. It starts from Thaton where people gathers. That's how we know about it. And this is just the second year of the campaigns, and we welcome everyone to contribute your expertise and your resources to this work, because I believe that it will take years or generations to complete the work. Thank you.
Say something, Ajahn.
Okay. I think Kunpai has already explained things quite clearly, to be honest. I think it's not, water governance is not ever water governance alone. Like when we talked about the hydropower, really it's energy governance. It's energy coming together with water. So now in the context of the mining, it's really mining governance in the context of water. But as Kun Wen mentioned, actually I'd say, what is Burma? In this current context, I think a state-centric viewpoint just will not work, because it would imply that it's got to be negotiated with the SDC or something, but they don't control the territories. So the whole logic of MRC thinking of state-to-state negotiations doesn't fit with this circumstance. Instead, the focus on the supply chains, like some of the activists are focusing on, is probably likely to be more successful to govern the mining in a very difficult context where these types of materials are very difficult to trace. Like they get mixed together with a lot of other materials and become invisibilized within the system, but that's how the environment becomes cheapened, to connect it back to what I was saying before. Then it becomes the facade of consuming green is really green, but it's not. Like the new EV car probably can't be green. Better to walk, ride a bike, take public transport, something like that. The other thing, just briefly, I think, in the end, the act of empathy, I think, is the most important part of building value. And the human rights-based approach and what you're describing on the ground is where we should be able to build relationships. Imagining not being able to find clean water and having no choice but to drink water that you know is poisoning you is an absolutely awful situation to be in. So, as a rights advocate, the obvious basic starting point is water is a basic human right. But from then, where does the action come? So I don't have good answers at the moment, but I used to work in Cambodia where arsenic in groundwater was also an issue in some of the wells. And there are kind of appropriate technologies like iron-rich sand that can reduce the amount of a particular type of arsenic. So this is not a recommendation, but it's rather a suggestion of thinking about the kind of appropriate technologies that can work on the ground in this context. So there is arsenic from groundwater has a kind of wider body of practitioners, but not in a context of conflict like this. So you have to kind of think of different ways that will be appropriate to the situation.
Sayan Cup, final words.
Yep. For about the Kok River issue that Pai said that it's like a long-term effect. It doesn't happen suddenly, but the thing that I learned from the man in the photo who have the large, is something like, if you look to that community, it's something like maybe you feel like everything is quite normal, nothing happened, but you can see the people hang out, go to the party, shopping, everything is everyday life, but something repeatedly in their mind, because they can use the water in front of them, they cannot touch the water, don't speak of the drinking water, just touch, you cannot go to the water like before. So it's something like make you feel something repeatedly, and anxiety, so that's what I want to show in the photo. Yep. So event is not happen suddenly, but it's really concerned that, like Kun Pianporn said, that we have to worry about that. And also, if you think that it's far away, it's like in the north of Thailand, it's quite far from the Bangkok. But now it's the toxic in the river is come to the crop, and then to the animal, and then to the market, and then to us. So it's not far from us anymore. It's coming closer. So this thing is we should concern about it. And also I learned from the Thaton district is about when we talk about that, we don't know who we gonna talk to, because it's quite complicated. That what I learned is that that the mind is in the chance state, but the chance state has been occupied by Wa is another from another state, right? And then the Chinese come to that, occupy and run the mine, and then they pay something, I don't know what is in English word, maybe tax or something, pay it to the Burmese government. So like very, very compared in that area. So it's quite big. If I'm the villager, like I'm just a villager who spend my life for fishing and growing something in that area, how can I cope with that issue? So I think it's really important that we all, how can I say something louder to the government, because that's it, the one who, now the government didn't do anything, because they act like us, they don't know what to do, but it cannot be, because they are government, they authority, so they have to act something. Yep. And I think the exhibition will ask every one of us to send the message louder to the government. Yep. And say that what they're gonna do. Also that for the exhibition, it's not all of the issue right now. There is still more. This is one just part of just a few. The land bridge coming, right? And also we got the forest fire just stopped in up north, but the people still fight to each other. You know, that make me like, I think it's, I like to say that we are on the same side. We shouldn't fight for that matter like who lit the fire, but the one that we should fight with is the authority, is the government, because they're responsible for that. And I'm asking everyone of us, yep, send the message louder, louder. Thank you.
It's not Thai government, it's Chinese government. You have to experience China.
All right. Well, on that note, I would like to thank all the panelists. Just to remind you that after this, we'll go upstairs to the official opening of the of Sayan's exhibition. You know, it's tough when I write about this issue. You know, the word that keeps coming up is irreversible. But hopefully, you know, with more awareness, with exhibition like these, with your great work, all of you, you know, hopefully that, you know, for somehow we can put an end, or, you know, at least make things better. I hope that we can still leave the world a better place for the future generation, but that's such a cliche now. It seems that we're getting worse and worse and worse. I don't want to end on a pessimistic note, so anyway, I want everyone to clap again for the panelists, and let's go upstairs and open the exhibition. Thank you. And lastly, I want to thank SEA Junction. I want to thank Bangkok Tribune, River and Rights, and Decode for Thai PBS. Thank you, and good evening.